Well, I hope I'm going to give you some good information, solid information on this. And, I seem to pretty much not fall in any particular train of thought with anybody out here on the internet. So I got my own unique ways of thinking. Um, I've been highly critical of the silver bloggers, but basically they're correct. Okay, I want to give you that information. Basically, they're correct. I was listening to a bunch of videos by Marc Faber of the News Unit. Now, the News Unit actually is a very good blog. I think it works like, the muckrakers of old, bringing out what's going on and exposing corruption and that type of stuff, bringing you the true scoop. But Marc Faber talked about, 20% correction or more in the equities markets. Now, I want to point something out. Marc Faber, I just want to point out too, it's common sense, business sense, or if you're from the country, horse sense. And those type of things go a hell of a lot farther than getting into too many technical points. Technical works, but it's also, you can apply common sense, business sense, and horse sense to technical too. What I'm saying is, and you actually have to have the details correct to come up with the overall picture. I don't knock anything really, but sometimes people are looking at tree bark and with a fine-tooth comb are missing the entire forest. And that's something that Marc Faber does not miss. He doesn't miss the forest. He sees what's going on in the overall picture, applies a lot of common sense, business sense, horse sense too. And he thinks there's going to be a 20% or more correction in the stock markets, right? I think so too, because they're basically up near record highs. They're not that far off the record highs. And we have the fiscal cliff coming. Now, does that mean gold is going down? No. That's where, I'm going to say gold is going up. I think there's going to be a repeat of what happened basically in August of 2011, where the equities went down and gold went up. Due to bickering over budgets, what they're going to do, what should they cut. I know there's a lot of mandatory stuff coming in by law, but I think they're going to break those mandatory laws. Knowing them, if they could find, oh no, we have to have an exception to an exception. Oh, it's another emergency. That's what will happen. They're probably not going to actually enforce the cuts. That's what I always think is going to happen. And what's that going to what's that going to mean? This is what I'm guessing, but in any case, even if they enforce the cuts, the markets are going down. It's not going to be good for the dollar that much. And, it's going to force more capital into gold. Not the only thing it's going to go into, because it could go into, like Marc Faber says and Jim Rogers, farmland. Even the Federal Reserve chairman over in Texas or whatever, that's one of his big investments, agricultural farmland. In a lot of ways, if you know what the hell you're doing with that stuff, it makes a lot more sense than gold, because guess what? It produces gold metal, just sits there, but gold is still going to go up. And considering it's a very easy thing to buy compared to buy farmland and you got to go plant stuff, it's physical work. A lot of people don't want to do that, right? So they'd rather just buy gold and silver. But, it's assets that actually produce are probably going to be the big things. Oil, natural gas, farmland, that type of stuff. But, I guess I'm going to take a little bit of issue on, I listened to Marc Faber about the 20% correction. But considering he's 25% more invested in gold, people like Paulson are invested in gold, just moved into it several months ago. Soros just moved a hell of a lot more into gold. They know it's going up, and they know the reasons why. The equities are going to get hit. Gold probably is going to go way up, probably going to hit a new record. Silver, I think it's going to go up. But that's such a tricky animal because it's related to industry and it's related to the equities in a lot of ways. It's a downturn in the economy, but considering what happened in 2011, I don't think it's going to get hit that bad, though. Even if it stagnated for a while, I don't think it's going to hit that bad. But I personally think for the end of the year, all the precious metals are going to be up quite a bit. They're going to be up quite a bit. Now, something else Marc Faber talks about is, just to review some of these articles on here, is the excess regulation. Now that's something I totally agree with. That's killing everything. But we talk about it. But here's the other side. A lot of people wanted the excess regulation in the first place. That's it's not just all the government doing it. It's it's a mixture. Sometimes people want to be protected too much, and guess what? It comes with a lot of strings and a lot of regulations. So, you want your freedom or you want your safety. And this is some little thing I'm going to put out here, and he doesn't say this, but maybe he alludes to it, but Marc Faber. But it's like, if you get a society that's just loaded down with regulation, the only people that are going to be free are outlaws. And it could be anything. I'll give you one example, like both Marc Faber and Jim Rogers talk about agriculture being a solid investment. You go over to Japan, right? In Japan, there's basically people growing things on rooftops. If you go in any city in Japan, all the rooftops are pretty much full with potted plants, large pots, all kinds of agricultural activity going on there. You won't see this too commonly in American cities, and I don't know why, but not just because it's cold, but because even in the warmer climates and even in the summer, it's not done. It's probably against the rules, but if that's a rule that could be broken, that's one rule you ought to break right there, because there's actually a lot of production and real benefit involved in agriculture. Not only if you're just doing it for food, but it could also be for herbs, and it could actually do a lot of good to people, unlike what you're getting out of the medical community. We can have a lot of healing through plants. There's no doubt about it. So that's a suggestion, but our whole attitude is like kind of off. Everything's electronic, everything's entertainment, but it's actually roll your sleeves up, and that will save America. There's no doubt about it. Now, what Marc Faber talks about is in the long term, probably like 2 to 5 years, about the euro crashing and possibly some people exiting the euro. Something else he talked about, which a lot of people are talking about, the euro is going to crash imminently. I doubt that very much too. But they kind of take his words out of context. It's like he thinks in 2 to 5 years there'll be some countries exiting the euro. There'll be major problems. But as far as the euro completely disappearing, no. Also, probably the time range for the dollar collapse, maybe 5 to 10 years, which, I don't know, I would think so too, because that kind of goes along with what Joel Skozen says about, what things would be collapsing about 5 to 10 years, because you think about it, the dollar, there's nothing really around that can replace it right now, and they're going to keep printing money. That's something he's talking about. They're going to run bigger and bigger deficits. But he also states, Marc Faber also states, not to stuff cash in a mattress. That's going to be a stupid thing to do. Because from 1913 till now, the dollar lost 98% of its value. It may lose another 98% of the last 2%, which would bring it down to 10,000%. Over the next 5 years or so, it may lose that much more. It'll go down to practically nothing. Which, the way things seem to work too, it's like they go in steps. But the big dramatic cliff seems to happen all at once. I'm pretty certain that cliff is a little ways off, though. It's probably far more than a year off. Far more. And we might have some inflation maybe that exceeds 10% this year, but that isn't like end of the world inflation. It's going to take a while. So I'm going to tell you, I've said it a billion times before, but I think these 4 metals are going to go up a lot by the end of the year. Now, something else I'm going to state, a little common sense. Even David Morgan said this, and there's one thing I give him credit for, is if you get a double on something, he says, sell half. Now, I wouldn't sell half, but I say sell some. If you see silver not even double, say silver went up 50% in a month, you probably should sell some. That's too crazy of a gain. Look at things that, in a balance. If silver, say silver, I don't think it is, but say silver went up 50% in a month, where I would really criticize the silver bloggers is they would tell you the sky's falling. Hang on. Well, you know what I would say is sell some of it, and there's other things, there's other assets you need. It could be, I don't know, I've got a motorcycle out here. Maybe that might be something to get, a motor scooter because fuel is going up. You can use it for your 2-mile trips, on certain days where it's not raining out or whatever. It could be anything, though. It could be garden tools. It could be whatever, anything. It could be something that you need. It could be more food storage or whatever. So you trade one asset for another. And, you might find that electric motor scooter is a good deal right now, and silver all of a sudden went up 80%. So you might want to sell some silver and do that. These are more like things that people might be doing for real versus, the Jim Rogers, Marc Faber, I'm going to buy up Asia and Europe next year, and this kind of garbage, because that's not really what goes on with the middle class. But I'm just going to give you some straight up advice. Agriculture is probably going to be the big hot ticket, so if you want to be an outlaw, and they say you can't grow things, well, grow them anyway. So that's what I got to say to that. Now, I'm going to say something else besides excessive regulation. The big entrenched rackets. I put this video up here, I don't know, a while ago. The answer to the high cost of gasoline basically was about one of the cars I have. It's I got this a few years ago. I thought it was a smart idea because it might come about someplace, at some time in Florida. It's a Chevrolet that has natural gas and gasoline. So if you fill it up with compressed natural gas, it runs out of that, eventually uses that up first, then automatically goes to gasoline. It's like you don't have to do nothing. General Motors was selling these for a while. They were like the same price practically as the standard Chevy. There was like maybe $1,400 more or something. They couldn't sell them. Nobody wanted them. So, I mean, you can't really blame General Motors, but I think it was the oil industry, too, because the availability of natural gas, it's tough. Like in Utah and Oklahoma, no problem. Now, if the government was really going to do something about saving our ass, with transportation, they would force this. They would force this. But, I guarantee you this, hey, without trying to be a fearmonger or whatever, hey, this is pretty much plain common sense. There is a conspiracy by the oil industry to protect their racket. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Natural gas is pumped everywhere. I'm talking natural gas, the stuff that's used for home heating, lights the pilot on your stove in a lot of places. It's pumped everywhere underground. It wouldn't take nothing. The infrastructure is already there. It cost $1 a gallon fuel equivalent, gallon gasoline equivalent, if you got this out of your house and put it in your car and you had the thing to compress it. So when a gas station sell it to you like at $1.50, they're getting some money. Now Boone Pickens, that guy's slick. Any state that he's involved in, the stuff's like 2 something. So he's making out. This guy's not doing anybody a favor too. I want to put that out there. So a lot of these rich bastards that think like they're trying to save you, they're not nice people. I know them too well. They're freaking sharks, every last one of them. Now, Marc Faber, I sense something different about that guy big time, to tell you the truth. I think he's okay. He's about the only one. But there is a conspiracy by the oil industry that's holding things back in the economy in a lot of ways, and they're going to rake you over the coals. I guess LW has, Lindsey Williams has a couple legitimate points about that, but I should also ad-lib a little bit on him because I would not trust any of his specific advice. General advice, yes, but specific advice, no. Now I'm going to tell you specifically, myself, I don't know what the hell Lindsey Williams says, but I say gold and silver is going up for have a strong finish in 2012. And actually, I think gold is going to continue to go up during a fiscal cliff in 2013. But silver, being a crazy animal that it is, it's going to go up really, really high, faster than gold, and then it's going to set down. It's going to do its crazy shit. So, like, I'm just telling you, if you see silver take off like a bat out of hell, don't be afraid to sell some. And, don't stuff your mattress with fiat dollars, Go buy some things that you need. It could be garden tools. It could be a chainsaw. It could be a car, an electric scooter. I don't know, something you figure is going to give you a lot of years of utility. Something that you don't need to buy equities in Greece or something like Marc Faber does because they're cheap right now. And he's got a lot of money, but Marc Faber is a down-to-earth person too. I picked that up about him, and that's one reason I like this guy more than I don't like any of them. I don't like Peter Schiff, to tell you the truth. I'll tell you one thing I didn't like about Peter Schiff is, he was telling people to buy euros in late 2007 and commodities in late 2008, and early 2008, and all that crap crashed. So I don't know. Just my opinion, but he strikes me as a different type of animal than Marc Faber by big difference. And speaking of animals, I noticed Marc Faber's got himself, he said he had 4 Rottweilers. So quite obviously, he expects when these economic calamities occur, it's not going to be a very safe world to live in. So I'm going to say this. If you want to really get down to what the solution is, it's actually roll your sleeves up. It's going to have to be doing things on your own. It's the blue collar worker is going to save the day. It's the professionals that I despise. I shouldn't knock doctors too much because there's good ones and bad ones, but for the most part, a lot of those guys are snake oil. I like the health field. I like healing and that type of stuff. I believe in healing and health. But I realize a lot of the professionals are the bureaucracy. They are the bureaucracy, too, themselves. And we have a lot of entrenched rackets versus in the oil industry and the medical industry. And there's a lot of things we can do to get around it. I talked about the electric scooter. Now, I have a Harley. Even that Harley gets 50 miles to the gallon. It gets as good a gas mileage as a Prius. And it's a hell of a lot faster. I can't put a lot of stuff in it. But, I ain't going to have to worry about changing out a couple dozen batteries in a couple years either, too. So it'll outlast that Prius by a couple decades easy. So, what I say is it's the blue-collar worker and also the people that are into farming and know how to do, agricultural work. And that could be anything. That could be potted plants that are herbs that you grow inside. It could be sprouting in sprouting trays. It could be growing in on rooftops, in cities, and balconies. It could be done anywhere. And the value you get out of that is tremendous because it could be not just food value, but medicinal value. That's going to save the day. That's going to save the day. Silver and gold are not the be-all, end-all of anything. Now, I like silver a lot because, it has that property where you can make the colloidal silver out of it. To me, that is one thing I really like the most about silver. And, and if it even comes to a pinch, if you had 3 nines silver versus 4 nines, the worst thing about the people turning blue is not using distilled water versus not using 4 nines water. So in a pinch, you could use 3 nines silver too, and as long as you're using distilled water, that's something that could save life, and bring about better health. So I have to state that the answer to all the problems is a hell of a lot simpler than you think. So silver's not a get rich scheme, but it is still a smart asset to be in right now. The get rich scheme is actually rolling up your sleeves and getting into the blue collar type stuff, because the blue collar worker, despite being oppressed, is the one that built America. No doubt about it. Now, I'm not a blue collar worker. I'm more professional. No doubt about it. But I totally respect who actually does what. And I can't stand the professionals. I don't know, even though I'm one of them. So I think that was maybe the reason I was mainly in the construction and manufacturing areas of accounting finance, because I cannot stand accounting finance for just accounting finance for pure numbers. It seems like snake oil, but I'm a producer. So just to leave you with this thought, Marc Faber talks about a 20% correction in the markets. I think that's, at least I think that's absolutely correct. There is going to be a nosedive in the markets in the S&P, probably more like in 2013. But gold is going to go up. And if any indication I have, like with Romney, the war with Iran is going to go on, which is going to be very bullish for oil and also silver. So hang on to those metals. But then again, don't get tunnel vision with the metals. You know, if you get crazy gains on it, don't be afraid to sell some. And it doesn't mean you're going to shove fiat dollars in your mattress. There might be something you need. Could be an electric scooter. It could be garden tools. It could be a sprouting kit for like growing plants, you know, inside your house, or something, you know, growing herbs, that type of stuff. You know, those are asset trades that a common person should make. You know, Marc Faber wouldn't do that exactly. But I respect that guy. I respect that guy. He's the only one that I can honestly say he's a real person that is actually concerned about the middle class. I think I read this guy, Marc Faber, 100% right. 100% right. He actually gives a shit. He does. He does. I think a lot of the other ones, they don't too much. They don't too much. But you'll even find it, even George Soros gives a shit so much. Believe me. Believe me. I don't know. I mean, the alternative media seems to paint like devil's horns on everybody there is. And in a lot of cases, it's not as true as you think it is. You know, they just made a lot of money by being shrewd. You know, that's what it comes down to.